Mm. Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Well, I was over at my bandsaw, right behind you, right there. Turn back around. Anyway, I was over there working. I got my TV pointed over to there instead of here and the whole bit. I was doing some work and I stopped for a minute to do some coffee and I got to thinking, you know what? I've got a lot of little things going on in that thing that really make that bandsaw a nice little tool. And I've never really done a full tour of my bandsaw, how it's all set up. So I think I'll do that real quick with you. There's a lot of good little tips on there, and you're not going to be interested in all of them, but I guarantee you, the one that you like, I guarantee you, will be the last thing I show you on there. So you're probably going to have to stay to the end anyway, just to get that really good tip that you're going to use. So, but there's a lot of them in there. So let me show you what I do with my bandsaw. Before we go over there, real quick, my panel saw. I promised I was doing a demo on it, but I've tried a three times now. Every time I start to do that, I see some improvements I can make, and then I end up doing those instead. So I will do that panel saw here pretty quick. I stopped. I'm not going to do any more improvements, but I think you'll really like these improvements that I did do to it. So I'll do that demo here pretty quickly. I haven't forgot it. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is a channel called Woodwork Web. It's all one word, and it's Colin Cadet. He has his own woodworking channel, and I've watched it for years. He's been around a long time. It's a pretty good sized channel. Now, I will tell you, I've left comments for him before. In fact, one of my Show Me videos was inspired by a project that he had done. And you'd have to go see that video to see what that was all about. It was about a miter sled on a table saw. So, but he never comments on his videos. I have never, ever seen him make a single comment, even when asked a question. And so there are a lot of channels that are like that. They just never really answer you, or they have their selected 2 or 3 people that they like to talk back and forth to, and everybody else, all the rest of us, they just ignore. So when it comes to his channel, I don't really watch the commercials. I just cancel them. And I don't do likes on his, and I never leave comments until yesterday. I left a comment because his last video he did was about making drawers with dovetails. Only when he did it, he got it backwards. He put the pins on the sideboards and put the tails on the front of the drawer. Well, that means that when you pull on that, that joint can pull apart. The only thing holding it together is the glue. The dovetail part structure doesn't help it at all. Bad rookie mistake type of thing. We all make them, I understand, but I had to tell him that, he really needs to correct that. A lot of people look to his channel for advice, and with what he did there are going to be other people doing the same darn thing now, and unfortunately, he really needs to correct that so they won't make that same silly mistake that he did. Now, there were a lot of comments made to him already by the time I watched it, 4 days after it was published. And there was a huge amount, and they all were saying the same thing about that drawer mistake. And not one comment from him to any of them, not one. So I broke my rule. I left a comment. I did not hit the dislike. I probably was at a point where I should have, but I did not. But the point is that I left him a comment and said, you really need to fix this. A lot of people look to him just like they look to me. There are people that look to me sometimes for advice. And anybody that puts out YouTubes, they usually have an audience that is looking to them to make sure they're doing something right or something. How do I do that? And so when you have something so badly done, like that particular deal, once you realize it was a mistake, you really should at least hone up to it. Make sure your subscribers know that, oh, that was a mistake, don't do it that way, and this is why. That's what he needs to do. We'll see if he does or not, but what a shame. And the fact that he's still so quiet on that, that just really disappoints me with channels like that. Enough said about all that. Let's go do a quick review of my bandsaw. So you're going to have to get up. I'm going to leave my coffee here. But since you're just standing there watching, just take your coffee with you. Just don't spill it on me, okay? So let's head over here. I'm going to turn you around. Okay. Take it up out of that holster. And let's go over here to my tripod. And now, I think probably a little higher view would be better. So here we are. Let's start at the top. So this thing is on a cart that I bought a long time ago. And that's another story. There's all sorts of videos on all the different things I'm going to talk about here. If you want to see any of those particular videos, there's about 12 of them on my bandsaw, the subject of my bandsaw. If you put in on my channel, go to my home page, on my home channel on YouTube and do a search there for bandsaw, you'll see about 12 different things on there about the bandsaw. About the laser light, my vacuum table here, and all sorts of everything, pretty much. So, but anyway, this thing is on a cart, so I can actually move this thing anywhere I want. I can even take it outside if I'm making a heck of a mess, or I want to use it to cut up some big, large pieces of lumber, like I have all that from that tree that I cut down. So it has a lot of capabilities. I've extended the bed so it's 4.5 feet from here to the back, so it gives me a lot of leverage of holding up a piece of wood, even 7 foot long, or even up to almost 8 foot. I can go and hold it without it tipping over. So it's very handy. Plus, because of the height of a bandsaw, because it's much higher than a normal table saw or anything else, there's a lot of space under here. So I also have my planer setting underneath the back side of the table there, and it goes left to right. It starts over here and the wood goes through this way. So that planer is taking up the same space as my bandsaw cart, which is nice. And it has its own dust collector right behind here. It's just a small version of a double bag. It's a 1 horsepower from Jet, the smallest one I've ever seen them make. And so I use that when I'm doing planing. But we're working on the bandsaw. So I just wanted to make sure you knew about that there. Let's take a look up here real quick. This is, up here I have a fan that can point over to my desk, or I can turn it and point it when I'm working here on, and it's kind of warm in here. So this fan I kind of use everywhere, and it kind of I can turn this because it's just sitting up here on the platform, and I can turn this any direction. And this is an air filter with an air filter on it. It's a box fan. I can turn that on if I'm creating a lot of fine dust. I can turn that on, and it's right here and what I do is this goes into that square up there. This fits into it. Then it sucks the dust in through here and it blows it through the filter. So I can turn this into a filter right above my bandsaw if I'm creating a lot of dust here. So that's what this setup is about, and that's why this fan is here. Most of the time, it just sits here and points over to the desk, because that's where I probably do sit in my chair at my workbench. And I find myself doing more and more stuff at that point. So, but anyway, that's up here. I have my remote that controls the fan, and it controls the shop vac right here, which one of the things I do is takes, and I just hook it up underneath here on my table. So this is the remote for doing those things. This is a light that I can use. I can turn it on, and we all know what this looks like. We've seen these from Harbor Freight. But I can put this right here, and I get some nice light right here where my cutting action is going on. So this is pretty handy to have when I need light, extra light right at the point of cut. So I keep that stored up here too. Got a ruler there, and I have a tape measure. This is a little notepad. All it really is, this was a shop notes project, I think, if I remember right. Whoops, don't fall down. Where you going? So I can take this, and it's just a adding machine roll, and I put it through here so I can either write a note on it using a pencil, or I can pull off what I need, set it here, and make notes. So it's a quick place to do note taking. I had this lip on it here with 3 little magnets on it, so when I set it up here, the magnets hold it in place right on top here, and it stays right here. I can use it here, or I can take it and move it if I need to use it somewhere else. Also, what I did that they didn't tell you is that I also took, and I have a pin here, a quarter. So if I want to put this on any flat surface like this, I can do that, but of course it isn't going to stay here. But if I want, I can pull the pin out, drill a 1/4 inch hole, put my pin in and push it into the tabletop, and then this holds right here wherever I drill that hole. So I can actually put this anywhere and quickly mount it. So it's pretty versatile to put anywhere around the shop. If I decided to need it somewhere else or temporarily need it somewhere, I can move it around. So this is a handy little note thing, and I keep it right here at the bandsaw most of the time. So anyway, what else do I have? I talked about the ruler. So I also have, then I have my regular work surface. This is the meat and potatoes of the project, and that most of the time I have this table on here. This table has an outlet right here that my shop vac hooks to, and it's funneled up into this side of this table, and it sucks the air right through here around the blade, so that this is my dust collection most of the time for that. So when I want to turn it on, I just use my remote, and it's number one. I turn it on, that will come on, and I'll have vacuum. So I can turn it on, use the shop vac, turn it off, and I'm good to go. The only problem I have is right now, this vac hose has to go over and up there because the shop vac is behind you, hanging from the ceiling up above my legacy working mill. So, excuse me. So that hose on the floor here is not my favorite thing, but I'll work something out on that here pretty soon. I have a couple of ideas. So anyway, this is my dust collection. Most of the time, I actually use this table. Now, this table has several attachments that I've made for it too. For example, I can use a jig, the Incra jig. You know me, big Incra fan. But I have inserts here, so I can mount this on this side of the blade right here, and I can set it on 0, line it up, put the screws in it, tighten it down, and I have a fence here. Now, because they're slotted, I can actually adjust this a little bit for if there's a blade drift in it. And I'll talk more about the blade drift in a moment. But so this pretty much can be set to the blade drift also. And then I get an accurate cutting distance using this fence here. And I can at the same time move the fence and put it in these two inserts and put the fence on this side of the blade instead if I want. So that's kind of how that works. I can take this fence and flip it over so that this end is sticking down here instead of on this side if I want. So this fence goes on and off by 2 Phillips screws right here. That's my Incra jig setup here. The other fence system I use, and it's the one I probably use the most, is this one. And this is just a miter gauge with a miter slot here that this fits into. And then this can go here. And then when I want to lock it down, I just take a clamp, an F clamp, and I just clamp it down right here. And then what I do is I adjust this to where I want it on dimension. When I have it set, then I can come through here and set this on it and tighten this down, and now I have this here. And again, because of the way this is, I can take this and adjust that fence to the drift so that while I'm using it, as this blade drift changes, I can readjust my fence as needed, just like I can with my laser light. So this is how my other fence. So I have both fences. This is the one I use most of the time because I'm not being exact when I'm using the bandsaw. It doesn't really give you good, clean cuts, precision, down to the 32nd of an inch necessarily. So, but it works. So most of the time, this is the fence that I grab. And it just sits down below. I also have, this is probably the one that I use the most, is this fence right here. And this one just works on the miter slot, and it's a cross-cut sled, basically. I put sandpaper on it here, and I put a ruler on it here to go both directions from the blade. Now, this ruler is set to that side of the blade. So the exact 0, when I'm cutting on this side, I will get the exact measurement. If I'm cutting on this side, that's my length that I'm cutting, then I need to add the thickness of my kerf of my blade which is really just about a 64th of an inch, or maybe it's closer to a 32nd of an inch, somewhere in there. Anyway, I don't remember what it is right off the top of my head because I'm never really that worried if I'm using it. I just want a rough cut. If I want to cut something down to a quick 2 inch, I can set it here and set this end to 2 inches, slightly proud, and then cut it, and then I can sand it to length. So this is pretty good for doing most cutting on the bandsaw, and that's one thing I like about it. If you're doing straight cuts, this works very well. Plus, because it's sandpapered on this part, it really holds down. So when I push down, like doing dowels, I just bring it in the corner. I look for where my end point is. Okay, I'll just use this. So I look for where my end point is. Let's say it's going to be right here at 3 inches. I can set this to 3, bring my rod over, do my cut, bring this back up, bring my rod over and do it again. So I can make quick repeated cuts with this, or I can clamp it down if I want to. I like to leave things free when they go through the bandsaw. But I see most people, when they cut things like this, short pieces, they're doing it using their fence. And I've never been a fan of doing it that way, but each their own. So when I do cuts like that, especially a lot of little repeats on little short pieces, this is really awesome for that. And it works real well when I have this table in place. So, and that usually sits right down here underneath the table, ready for me to grab. Now, real quick, a fallacy that everybody talks about here is your dust collection on this unit. I do dust collection here. If I'm not dust collecting with this on here, with my tabletop, then that's because I'm cutting big, huge pieces and I'm rip cutting or that sort of thing. So, under those conditions, there is no real true way to really collect dust on this machine. The dust port they have on the back here, those things are a myth. Everybody that does it, and if they put their dust collection, a 4-inch port or whatever it is, and it goes into where this lower wheel is, they're not trying to collect your dust for you. That is there to protect that bottom wheel from packing with sawdust. I've seen some guys open that door and it'd be so packed in there you can't believe how tightly packed everything is. But I found that you get a little bit of dust there, but most of the time I don't even fasten the door. I just leave it open like that, and all that dust then falls out and falls on down. So anything that comes through and actually gets into this box, I just let gravity take care of it rather than trying to collect it with dust collection. That is a waste of energy and a waste of your time to do it that way. So, and believe me, I've tried all different ways. So when I'm doing a lot of fine cutting, I do have the dust collection through this table here. And so when I'm using this table, I am definitely doing dust collection using this collection here. So, and I think that's most everything that I have on this that I can think of. It's a nice little setup. Like I said, if I want it, oh, I was going to, one more thing, the laser. It's really a very cool item too. I did a thing on this laser here. This is a Harbor Freight laser, but when you turn it on, I can line it up. In fact, what I usually do is line it up to my ruler. So if I line it up like this, I also have my drift set on this thing. And so now I can see my line for doing my cutting. So if I put something on here, I actually can see the cut line. Also, if I want to cut something at an angle, I can actually take it. If I have my angle on here, here's a piece here with a line on it. I can line this up in that line of that laser line. And right now that pencil line is inside that. And if I go through there and do that cut, it'll cut right on there for me. Nice and easy. And because this is sandpaper, I hold it on one side only when I do the cutting. Over here, I would maybe just reinforce it with a finger to keep it from pushing backwards. and then I just whoop, push it right on through and let the blade do the cutting. So you can cut angles without any problem. If I'm going to cut circles, then I go, I use this table here, or I use my circle cutting jig. And this is the other jig I have for this. And again, it works when I have this table in place. It has a runner here to go in here, and it's slotted here. Now I have A, B, C, D, E, and F lineups here. And I have here a pin with A, B, C, D, E, F. This is my stop. So if I want to use the A chart, so if I put something in 5, this would be 6 inches, this is 7 inches, this is 8 inches, and so on. If I want to use that, so I would use this and put my piece on there so that I would turn it then on my pin. Let's change this out. Here's C. There's a hole. So right now this is at 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's over here on line C, so it's a 1/2 inch more. This is increased by 1/4. If I use this holes, here it's 1/2 and here it's 3/4. So this is set to 7, 8. Oh. Yeah, 8 1/2 is what this is set to. So if I put this on here, I would be able to create an 8 1/2 inch wheel by using the C stop here. I put my other pin here, and then when I push this into the wood, that would give me my cut. So that then would give me that size diameter using this pin here. So this works real well. I did not drill all my holes. All I did was I drew a template. Like so. And then as I need a different hole, if it ain't already drilled out, then I drill out a 1/4 inch hole and I do it. Or if I need to, I can even just put a pin nail in there if I want to use a nail if it hasn't been used this way yet. So this makes it pretty versatile. It doesn't take long to do it. The longest time is to draw this out. And I did all this with the increments on here, so I got accurate increments on each of these lines as I marked them across wood. So this chart is what gives me, between this chart and here, gives me my dimensions of my circle. So that's how the circle jig works. If you want to know more about it, you can do the search on it, bandsaw, and you'll see one of them is on my circle cutting jig. So I like this jig. It works very well when I cut circles, but of course, because I use a 1/2 inch blade almost exclusively on here, I do not have the capability of cutting real small circles. Under 5 inches, I take a different approach. So that does not work real well on this. So that's my other jig that I have on here for my table saw. So it's a great little setup. Like I said, it only takes a second to take the table off. Take that piece out. Take this piece out. Let me get it. And now I can slide the table, lift it up, and slide it off the end here. Now there is a dowel at the end here where this cut line is. And the reason that dowel is there is a 3/4 inch with a hole drilled in this so that it keeps the two halves in alignment across here. So my table has that. If you go back and see where I did the dust collection on my bandsaw, it explains all that very well. So, but that's everything I think there is about this. I can't think of anything else to tell you. If you have any questions, I know this thing went on way too long. Sorry, but there was so much here, and it was so much fun talking about it. So you might want to use 1 or 2 different ideas here on your bandsaw. If you have any questions here, oh, by the way, this is a Powermatic 14 inch from about 2001 or 2000. It was when this one was made, so that gives you an idea how old it is. It's been a good workhorse for me. I've never had it really bogged down, even cutting through a full 8 inch piece of hard wood like oak or something. So It doesn't. I've done a lot of bandsaw boxes on here with a 3/16 and a 1/4" blade, but I do usually use the 1/2 inch, 4 TPI blade most of the time. And because changing it out, I can change it out, but to do that, I have to take the tabletop off, take the pin out over here for the cast iron table, then go through the process. So it takes a good half hour to change the blade out. So anyway, I think that's it. Any other questions? I mean, that's the guy in the back. He's always got one. Anything else they should know about? Anyway, I want to thank you for stopping by. Questions, comments, ideas. Maybe I'm doing something here that you think would be better. I'd love to hear it. So just leave a comment. I do read all of them. If you like this video, you learned something here, hit that like button. And thank you for staying to the very end. Most importantly, though, please come back again because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you again very soon. Bandsaw demo coming up.